We were afraid that he would get up in the night and harm someone. He became so bad that he actually, in one of his foster homes, slaughtered their family pets with a kitchen knife.
Oh,
the foster mother came home and she sees this and she thought a burglar had gotten into the house. She was just distraught. Oh my gosh, who could have done this? It never even crossed her mind that the preschooler did it. And she figured it out, that it was him. He had gotten so violent on these medications that he had killed her little family pets. It was decided that he should go to the state hospital, and I left there and I decided that I would try. And they said I had 2 weeks to turn him around. And then the state hospital was still there if I couldn't do anything. And so I brought him into my home, and the first thing we did is tons of nutrition, food in its most natural form, tons of raw food, tons of whole grains. That's what we did. Lots of real nutrition. And then we started taking him off of his medications. And he turned around so much that I became known in the caseworker's office as the miracle worker. He just made such a turnaround, and today he's just incredible. He skipped a grade, and he's still tops out, nationally. He tests out so high in even the grade that he's in. Plays a couple instruments. He's fabulous at school. This is an exceptional child.
He's not showing violence toward his sister or your family pets?
Oh no, he's very sweet with all of our pets. We have 5 dogs, 3 cats, and he's wonderful. And it's just incredible to me how many children out there are in his exact shoes and will never
There aren't enough people like you to care.
And the doctor can just blame it on trauma.
Or, if a child commits suicide so often, it's just, we didn't get to them soon enough. That's what it is. We didn't get to them soon enough. Because that takes the blame off of them completely. Or like my son's psychiatrist said when her patient shot himself, where'd he get a gun? No, looking introspectively, where'd he get the will? So it's just somebody else's fault. It's never the medications that I prescribed. Or like it was an everyday occurrence, and I was just sitting there flabbergasted and thinking to myself when she said, when she was finally, it said that he was okay to come off all his medications, and with his Seroquel, she said, wow, I am just so glad to see that he can still imagine and play, because so many children who are on this medication for any length of time lose that ability to play anymore. And I was just shocked and thought, how do you sleep at night? Right. I can't imagine taking somebody's creative ability from them. What could possibly be worse than making somebody into someone who they're permanently
like a
scarred?
zombie.
Yes, they're a permanent zombie. What could be worse than that? Tell me a disease that you would rather have than that.
The situation with foster care is truly horrible. As I soon found out, not only are thousands of children drugged every year, but sometimes the results are fatal. I flew to Florida to meet with Michael Friedland, an attorney who represents foster kids damaged by psychiatric drugs, including 16-year-old Emilio Villamar.
Good morning, Celeste. Very nice to meet you. I'm glad you're able to make it.
Michael.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me here.
My pleasure.
How common is the use of psychiatric drugs in the foster care system?
The drugging of children in foster care, I understand, is a way too common occurrence because it's a simple fix. Foster mom or foster dad or social worker says we have a child who won't sleep through the night, or a child who's waking up with night terrors, or a child who's misbehaving or redirecting their frustration on other childs, or using their hands to hurt, not help. And instead of sitting down and working with that child and taking the time to say, what's causing them to act out? No, we're not gonna worry about that. We have a fix. Give them this pill. They're using these poor children who are coming from incredibly difficult environments as guinea pigs.
With no one to protect them.
With absolutely no one to protect them. And that's why they prey on them. Because there's not a mom or dad there that can say, hey, no, I'm not gonna let you test this untested, unproven drug on my child. So let's test it on children that don't have someone to be their voice.
Oh my goodness. You represent the mother of Emilio Villamar. Can you tell us something about his story?
Just like your son, Emilio was a vibrant 16-year-old boy, played water polo, excelled at school, had lots of friends, came from a great family. Everything was wonderful in his life. And he had a bad situation in school one day. And Mom got worried because he wasn't acting like himself. And Mom, being a very concerned mom, took him to see a doctor. And the doctor, without really any kind of diligence or any kind of thought, put him on a varying combination of different incredibly powerful antipsychotic drugs over the next 12 months, leading to a cardiac event that led to his death.
My goodness. How many drugs was he on?
Over the 12 months that this physician treated him, he was on 17 different drugs at different times, in different dosages, and in different combinations.
Oh my goodness.
And those drugs killed him.
Right. I believe that. I believe that's what happened to Matthew. Not
knowing all the facts of Matthew's story, there's no question in my mind that the drugs played a role. I mean, these drugs are dangerous. They're dangerous for adults, let alone children. And they're being prescribed recklessly, they're being administered recklessly, they're being promoted even more recklessly.
Michael, thank you so much for what you're doing and for letting me come in here and speak with you today.
It's my pleasure. Again, sorry for what you had to go through. I can only hope that what you're doing saves other families from having to go through that same tragedy.
I hope so.
Oh, Matthew's got you now. Hello. Say hi.
When he started taking that medication, it was like something dark came over him.
There was definitely a difference within a month there of kind of just a huge wall went up.
He wasn't really talking a lot, kind of tight-lipped.
Just becoming more detached. He became more isolated, wasn't at school a whole lot.
He was skipping school a lot more. He was losing a lot of weight.
He's spending way too much time downstairs in the basement, you know, watching TV and doesn't want to do anything.
We had come up to the door and asked him if he wanted to go to a movie or go out to lunch or do something to get out of the house. And he was very short. I didn't want to do anything.
He told me to get out of his room and close his door. And he'd never said that to me before. But it's like he wasn't comfortable in his own skin.
It was like he had 50 cups of coffee and he was starting to get spooked about who's here and am I safe and all of these things that were almost like playing mind games on him, if you will.
He just didn't feel like he was in his right mind anymore. He didn't understand what was happening. He thought this medication was supposed to be helping him.
And I remember recognizing the look on his face as, it's hard to describe, that nothing is okay. You know, there's no future, just complete despair and sadness in his eyes.
In the last few weeks, I've had to face the fact that all this drugging of children isn't happening by accident. The drug advertising is everywhere, and it's obvious. But the real surprise was to see how heavily psychiatric treatment is being pushed in our schools, right under parents' noses.
This wasn't the case for Matthew, obviously, but I do know that they are starting to screen children in school for mental problems or things that they perceive to be mental problems anyway. Sheila, you have experience with that, don't you?
My son was 7, and he was in school, and I was getting a lot of phone calls from the school about his behavior. So they did this checklist on him, and I didn't know anything about this checklist, but I took it home and I had to fill it out, and it was all on his behaviors. Does your son get sad? Does your son, just simple little questions that any child would do. So based on that checklist that I filled out on my son, and they diagnosed him off of a checklist that he had ADHD. And I was devastated. I was like, oh my God, what does this mean? My son's mentally ill, you know, he's only 7.